Hey, what's going on, friends and family? My name's Skylent, and I'm always in love with finding new multiplayer games, trying to share these experiences with you guys, play with you. And if you want to play with me, Discord's in the link in the description, as well as you can like, subscribe, so that you know whenever I go live here. Absolutely, just ask to join a game. That's what it's all about. And some of the best games to play are survival games with friends, or even to make friends sometimes, often enemies, but in MMO survival games instances, even more so. Absolutely, they're very social and very organic with how you play them. There's not too many of them, and a lot of them are janky, but upcoming, we've got some hype on the horizon, and I can't wait to talk about them. So I picked 5 games that I think really deserve some spotlighting that you should know about, and that, we should all play together. So if you find a game that you haven't heard of before, make sure you actually hit that like button, but let's go ahead, let's get into my top 5. Okay, so starting out the list, I'm gonna cheat a little bit, and I'm actually going to put Valheim as the gameplay footage, and the main, I guess, game that I will talk about, but not really. So Valheim is not an MMO, we all know that, right? Actually, a lot of survival games aren't technically MMOs. They don't reach up to like 50 players, there's not raids or anything like that, but they could, and sometimes they actually do. They bridge the gap from just a social server game or a co-op, survival game, and they turn into something more, depending on mods, depending on, new server infrastructure, or maybe new updates to the game that allow more players to play together. And that is exactly what is happening with Valheim, a game that does have big giant bosses and like a huge expansive world, base building and all that. It could actually have some really fun sandbox MMO vibes. I mean, I played a lot of Minecraft MMO servers. It's definitely possible. You guys might have played an MMO server on Rust or what have you. There is precedent for this, and that's really what I want to talk about. The probably best upcoming survival MMOs might actually be some older survival games that get new mods and new updates. And in fact, there are teams working directly and diligently on Valheim to make it a possible MMO where players are all going to get together and like have base sieges and stuff like that. And I think it's going to be great. It's going to be a hoot and holler. But can I name a specific mod, a specific server at the moment like I can with Minecraft? No, not right now. But I just want to tell you guys, hey, look kind of backwards sometimes. MMOs are living, breathing games, and survival games have that ability to feel like that and to become that over time with the community. I mean, these are community-based games just like MMOs, and in fact, many of these games I would consider MMO lights. So they just kind of need the player count, they just need the server infrastructure, maybe some certain add-ons like you have Townie in Minecraft, and then boom, you got yourself a brand new MMO experience. And if you haven't tried some of these servers, I definitely recommend that you do, because it does change the game entirely. Next up, we have a survival open world game with zombies, which is, you know what, we've seen that before. We got Unturned, Sure Daisy, blah, blah, blah. A lot of those games, not really MMOs. But The Day Before is trying to actually be a survivor game proper and also an MMO game. But from what I see with the gameplay, it does kind of give me the Division vibes, which, I don't know, I guess the atmosphere is survival. I guess in some ways it can vibe like an MMO light, but we'll see if this game actually holds true to that promise. But in the end, it's probably going to be a good game, and it looks like a proper AAA production, and I'm definitely hungry for like sort of a looter style game. Yeah, with zombies, that PvE, VP, and really just like a properly done zombie game that's not entirely jank. Now, I do love me some 7 Days to Die, but if you try to ever play on like the larger or MMO servers, completely breaks the game. It just doesn't work, which is really true with a lot of survival games. You just can't have too many people in these titles. It just breaks the balance. It breaks the game. It literally, like, the servers will crash. But The Day Before looks like it's going to be a sincere attempt at being that, as long as we actually have really good, I think, survival style mechanics. I don't need like hardcore don't starve kind of like food bars and stuff like that. But overall, if the atmosphere feels proper survival, then I'm gonna have a lot of fun. My history kind of comes with MMOs is like hardcore, PvP-centric MMOs, where it does feel, with the atmosphere of like almost like a survival game. You gotta go and hunt resources, kill other players, and be killed, and when you die, you lose everything. So I do appreciate that, but hopefully they go above and beyond, which it does seem like they're going to do. What do you guys think about this game, another zombie MMO, supposedly? There's actually a few out there that are kind of cool. Look forward to an upcoming horror MMO list, friends and family. But yeah, The Day Before, looking pretty sweet. Maybe not too innovative, but it does look genuinely decent, which is, it's kind of saying something for both genres of MMO and survival games. Next up, we have a fantasy sandbox game called Frozen Flame. And the main gimmick here, I guess, is there was sort of a trend going on with a bunch of upcoming MMOs of like resetting servers. And it wasn't just MMOs, it was also survival games like Population Zero was doing this as well, where you basically play for a limited amount of time, sometimes, I think most of the time, a week. And you play for a week, you build up, you get resources, and you basically are trying to challenge all the different bosses, and then the end game boss or whatever puzzle or riddle that, is there, and then you try to beat it, and if you don't, then it resets, and you keep some progress, maybe with skills and things like that, some unlockables of some kind, and then you kind of redo it, replay, until you try to beat the boss again. This isn't uncommon, like a lot of people really do enjoy this style of gameplay, specifically in survival games, like Don't Starve, all the different servers, people just replay, rush ruins, and then try to, survive as best they can, as quickly as possible, if that even makes sense. Basically, get to a point of thriving, and then once you have self-sustainability, you've effectively beat the game, or you just kind of rush the bosses, and then you just kind of rinse, repeat, and try to become more efficient overall, and that's really cool. So that's something that is kind of missing from the MMO scene a little bit. Now we kind of have speedrunning with World of Warcraft and Classic, used to at least, until Blizzard ruined it. People love doing hardcore one life stuff in MMOs now with RuneScape, Iron Man, as well as World of Warcraft. So I'm seeing like a lot of people wanting that out of MMOs, and it's cool to see basically a merger of those two ideas of a survival game with fantasy elements, magic and everything, kind of Valheim-esque basically, and then also bring it to maybe more of an MMO state where you're going to be kind of building communities and really working with a server in order to beat the game entirely, which seems to be the point. It's not going to be a slow-paced game exactly. There is going to be more of a rush focus, which I think is really cool. Again, we kind of saw this with like the failure of Rend, the failure of Zero Population, Crowfall. Oh my god, a couple of games have been trying to do this idea. Hopefully this will be the one that actually comes to fruition, because I really do want that to be a thing. Next, we have V Rising, a game that I just recently covered and was enthralled with. Oh my goodness, V Rising is basically vampire survival. Look at that. Now, it is claimed to be a full MMO, but you might see from the screenshots, it is an action RPG proper. So normally there's a distinction between these two genres. Like normally it's like 4 players total or whatever. We'll see what the server count is, but it does promise to be like a big open one sandbox world that you actually explore and play around with. And then you're going to be invading other people's castles and stealing their riches. They can invade yours. There is going to be PvP, but also there is PvE. Like there's a full, complete suite of action skills that you would expect from the developers of Battlerite. Probably, debatably, like the most action-based isometric game I've ever played. I mean, have you played Battlerite? It's crazy, Like it was pretty ridiculous. It basically felt like a fighting game, but kind of like a MOBA, merger of those two concepts. And this game looks ridiculous as well. Tons of skill shots. Basically everything is a skill shot. Everything is a leap, a bound, a freaking explosion, hacking and slashing. Actually might feel like hacking and slashing in this hack and slash. So yeah, an action RPG with actual action. Looking forward to that. Just set alone, regardless of the other online and weird features that they have, which I haven't seen too many games do that other than, yeah, survival games like Rust, where you're raiding bases and things like that. They definitely are emulating that, but otherwise, MMOs that have tried to do that, like, almost none, basically. MMOs, even the most hardcore sandbox ones, are pretty actual Care Bear. They don't actually have too many organic systems in place like survival games do. So I like that they're taking inspiration from that, and yet also taking what used to be sort of a static kind of genre where there isn't too, other than like procedural generation, you just kind of do the same thing over and over again. It is really cool that we're getting that player interaction of the MMO space, the survival elements, which also allow for a lot of creativity when it comes to like player input, and then also, yeah, you're gonna have the action RPG, so it just feels good all the time, something that survival games tend not to. They tend to be, like janky, right? They tend to not feel that great. MMOs as well. So make a game that just feels good, is chunky, is meaty, is bitey, whatever all that means. And then also, allow us players to kind of play on the dark side a little bit, do a little bit of ganking, invading some towers and stuff like that, pillaging some towns, and then, yeah, fighting bosses with our friends. It is also co-op, so that's pretty cool. And maybe making teams, guilds, or I guess clans or whatever of vampire folk. I think it's going to be really cool. It could be kind of half-assed. It could be the worst of all worlds, but I have a feeling that they're going to really spice this game up. It looks like a really proper, step forward, and production value is really on point, so looking forward to it. Hope you guys are too. V Rising. And the final game that I want to talk about, and the one that I am most excited for, is Bitcraft. This one, I think, really identifies as the title of this video more than any other game. it is a MMO survival game, and it is massively multiplayer survival, as in you are trying to survive as a guild together in an open world. But uniquely enough, you spawn in the world completely alone. You're not going to just jump into a faction, you don't just spawn as a race or a country or something like that. You are completely alone, which you would actually expect from a survival game. And then you're going to be punching trees, and you're going to be mining, and you're going to be doing all this building of resources. But then, much like many survival games allow for this emergent gameplay, you will emerge into the world and meet up with other little peoples, maybe even little towns. Maybe you find yourself into an empire or such, but you're going to kind of just walk through this world and meet other people walking through it, and from that emerge little towns, little villages, castles, things like that. You're going to build all together without any sort of concept of factions or pre-built, battlegrounds or something like that, queuing up for PvP MOBA battles. You're going to actually properly survive as whatever you decide you are going to do, whatever, class you're going to build, or whatever type of empire you're going to be building, which resources it's actually going to focus on. Because that's going to be a big part. You're all going to be working together to build up together, but there is supposed to be specialization where different regions have different resources and stuff like that. So maybe you're going to start out as like a hunting town or a fishing town or something like that, a mining town, and from there you're going to build your economy. And that's where really, obviously, you're going to have the gameplay loop of survival games, but there's going to be a little bit more, where you're surviving as this political sort of empire, where you're actually going to be contesting, maybe trading with other players, and then you're trying to be kind of like the biggest city on the server, basically, which is going to be one giant server. It is procedurally generated, so there's a lot of mystery to uncover, and overall, you can definitely tell from the footage and the art style that it is evocative of mystery and discovery. And I think that's freaking beautiful, okay? This game does seemingly compete directly with a game called Palia, but Palia is specifically a sort of Care Bear, sweet, cozy, wholesome kind of community builder. This game's the same, but it looks like it's going the extra step to being an actual technical survival game, and one that is uniquely survival in an MMO sense, survival in a guild sense, as an empire, as towns and building kingdoms. That's pretty cool. I'm really excited to see how they do that. They say there's a lot of inspiration with city builders and stuff like that, which makes a freaking ton of sense. I don't know if you guys have ever played some city builders, such as Banished, but yeah, those are straight up survival games. Holy crap. So yeah, very, 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 very excited for that. In all senses of the word, this is survival MMO. And I have played some servers like this game inside of Minecraft. I have played, bits and pieces of this type of gameplay in other games, so I'm really excited to see it all stitched together with this art style that's kind of Ghibli-esque and kind of reminds of Journey or something other that's very emotive and, just kind of sweet and cute. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Hope you guys agree. Hope you guys just learned about this one, and we're all going to jump into it together. Yeah? Whenever it comes out. Alright guys, but that was my top 5. Again, remember, go back to Valheim and some other older survival games, type in MMO server for it. You might actually be surprised. You might actually have a ton of fun. But yeah, the day before is looking pretty great. Frozen Flame, I think, is going to be a weird one. I want it to work, but, it's a little dubious. V-Rising, pretty sure it's going to be a good game. Don't know how MMO or how survival, but it's going to be good. But Bitcraft is definitely the sweet spot. That's the one I really want to champion with this list. Overall, I'm going to play all these games. I'm going to play them with you if you would have me. So yeah, join the Discord, links in the description, like, subscribe so you know when I go live, but all I can ask is you keep the hype alive. My name's Skylent, thanks for joining us, and I'll see you again next time.